agencies have done. Can you speak to what was going on in those agencies when these PSAs were launched?
Yes. In New York City in 2007, the Manhattan Borough President's Office did do a study of sexual harassment on the transit system, and over 60% of people had experienced harassment there. So that led to a coalition effort to really try to get a PSA campaign. It took until 2008 for them to launch it. And there is some criticism because on the, and this was poster hung in the metro trains and buses, but it actually doesn't list a number for where to call if you're harassed. And so that's something that activists are still pushing them to change. And they're the only ones that have audio announcements too, saying that sexual harassment is a crime and you can report it. Boston heard about the report going on there in New York City, and they actually launched their PSA campaign first before New York City did, because they assumed that if this was a big problem in New York, it was probably a big problem in Boston as well. So they launched that, and they actually have a lot of undercover stings too, where especially women police officers go undercover and arrest people. And also, I forgot to say, in New York City, they also have a whole effort to encourage people to take cell phone photos of their harassers and submit them, so that I know, as we heard, like sometimes it's hard to remember what the person looks like or to describe them, but that can help identify the harasser.
Okay. And the transit agencies paid for?
I'm sorry, yes, and the transit agencies paid for them. In Chicago, a community-based group did a survey as well, found more than 60% of people had experienced harassment, and it was amazing. Within a few months, CTA responded and launched a PSA campaign and also instituted training for their subway and bus employees.
Well, I think it's very helpful to have these examples and to know that there's some research and nearby transit agencies. And I feel like I think we have the best transit system certainly in our country, and we want to keep it that way. Right. And part of that is making sure that people are safe. There are obviously a lot of aspects to safety that we're concerned about at Metro, in terms of making sure our cameras are up to date, that we have enough police officers undercover and uniformed on our buses and trains, in parking lots, and bus stops. So we know that makes a huge difference. But I think it's also important, to your point, and I think that we see this phenomenon all too often, is that members of the public kind of walk through the world just with blinders on. And we all, as fellow citizens, should know that how people should be treated and get help and go to someone's assistance. And I know that's a tough message. That's part of that PSA message that we kind of need to look out for each other. Now, you mentioned in your testimony a little bit about the ages of women, and I think you mentioned a survey that showed that young women, and I would be willing to bet that a lot of young women and a lot of the harassers are probably young too. What can you say about youthful riders?
Well, I know that Collective Action for Safe Spaces has been really sought after for doing workshops with youth, because it is harassment in public spaces is such a big problem for them. I don't have specific numbers on the harassment of youth here in the D.C. area. The survey that I referred to was broader. It had 23 countries, 45 U.S. states included. But I think that teenagers really do face the bulk of harassment, and it's not just from each other. It's often from adult grown men who, there's quite a bit of a power imbalance, and it can be really scary and much more threatening than if an adult is, a female adult is harassed by a male adult.
Okay, I understand. Well, your testimony, thank you both, has been very helpful, and we'll look forward to working with everyone who testified today, and certainly all of the groups who are involved. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.